Welcome back to Java tutorial at our channel Yegobox. Today we are going to continue learning Java. So from previous video we have seen that every Java program should at least have one class, and should have at least one main method. So there is a reason why we have this method named to be main. That means that is the first method that you should have inside your Java program. So now today we're going to continue from where we left from and learn about variables. So let me comment this out, and we're going to see variable. So what is a variable? So a variable is a name which is associated with the value that can be changed. A variable should have a value, and this value can change at any time. So just to be clear how to create a variable in a Java, you start with a data type. For example, in this case, it is an integer. Then you say I, maybe, for example, this is the name of the variable. Then you equal that variable to something. So something to notice here is that a variable in Java should have a type, and you cannot put, for example, here you cannot put a string here as a value. Why? Because I have said already that my variable should have an integer. Therefore, I cannot assign it with the string, yet I said my variable should be an integer. So I should put an integer here. So that's how you can declare a type. So this is the format you need to follow actually. So if you look at this, you see that I have a data type here, which is an integer, and I have a variable name, which is I. Then I have a value here. That is the format you need to follow every time you are defining a variable. So, all right, so now we have a variable, and we know how to define a variable, and we know that a variable should have three parts. And those three parts, there is a data type, and there's a variable name, and there is a value. So now there is some naming convention in naming variables. Naming convention. So why do we need naming convention? So it's because in every programming language, you'll be having different convention for that program to happen. For example, this is the keyword for Java to know different things. So that is to say you cannot use the variable, your variable cannot be static, for example. The name of that variable cannot be static, or cannot be void, or cannot be string, or cannot be integer, right? Because this is the keywords, these are the reserved keyword for Java only. So a variable can start with a lowercase letter. For example, here you can see that this is a lowercase letter, or even can start with a higher letter or uppercase letter. And you can combine more than one words to create a variable. For example, instead of saying I as a variable, I can change it to be maybe small number. It's going to be 10. So this is okay for defining a variable. So, and something you have to know that variable are case sensitive. So what do I mean by that? So what I mean, this variable is different to this variable. These are two different variables. This variable is is not equal to, this variable is not equal to this variable. Why? Because this has the uppercase number and this has lowercase number, which make them a totally different variables. And that's what we say when we say that a variable are case sensitive. Now the type of now let's go to the second things, type of variable in Java. So basically there is three type of Java, and let's see, there is a local variable, and there is let's see, static variable, and that is and this static variable is what we call class or class here, and there is what we call instance variable. So we are going to see them how are different in a bit. So let's start with static variable, right? Let's start with this one. So what is a static variable? Static variable or a class are known for this reason. They are associated with the class and common for all instances for those classes. So these are the variables that are related to the class. So whenever you call the class, then you call all instances of that class. For example, if we create three objects of class, maybe we have a class called the mama, and we create three objects of that class called mama, and uh, they access static variables inside that class. It will be common for all changes made to the variable using one object. So like if we have three objects and we modify the variable in one object, then it will be common for the change that we made in one object is going to be reflected with another essence of that class. So what do I mean by that? So okay. So I think so here we have a class called main. Let me close it. You can see the class where it is called closed. Let me create another class called static static variable example. Okay, and as you can see, you can call your class anything you want, like public class, then put the name of class here, and you have always the main method. Okay, but let me move these files to its this class to its own file. So let me do Control N, Control S on your keyboard, and let me save it to static variable.java. Save it and cut this class. Cut it. Sorry. Cut it. Cut. Control C. Then paste here. Then we have our class here. So we have our class called static variable example, var example, and we have our default method. This is the method I told you from the last video that it should be there. This is the method that should be available in every class you define. So now we have our static variable. Something to notice here is this keyword called public. This is to say that whoever who is going to code this class, who is going to use this class somewhere in his program, is going to be able to access this static variable that I have defined inside this class. But if you make this private, which is also possible, that means that this class, this variable, is only accessible inside this static variable example class. But because I want, maybe I'm building this class for someone else to use it, and that's why I make this variable to be public to anyone who is going to use the class. So anyway, that was aside. So we are now seeing, we are going to see what is a static variable means, okay? And we said that we can have three instances of the class, which is like we have a class, then we create object 1, object 2, object 3. And this is how we create an object. We use new keyword, then plus a class name. And this is the best things. You can create a class and you can code the same class inside here, which is totally okay without going outside the class. Now let me compile this javac and put the name of the file you want to compile, then hit enter and wait for a bit. So there is an issue here. Static variable is public, should be declared in file name. Okay, so this is what I told you. The file name really matter. So the file name should be as this class. So let me go ahead and rename it. So this is why I told you that the name of the file should always match with the class name. Okay, I'm glad that I can show you that. So now let me compile it again. Okay, let me compile it again. Yes, it's done. Now let me compile it again. This is how to compile it. You put javac here, then you put the file name .java here. Keep in mind that the file name, which is this one, this is exactly the same as the class name you have here. So this is one mistake you can do, then you fail to compile your Java program. Make sure that your class name here is equal to the Java file that you have created. So my Java file is also called the static var example.java. Then you use javac here, then you put that file name, then hit enter to compile it. It's done. Then you can use Java, then you put the class name here, and it's going to show that class or static variable, which is here. So what we are looking here, we said that static variable are, in other words, a class. So when we say static variable in Java, what we really mean also, in other words, is called a class. So that's why if we print out object and we print this variable here, we see this message here being printed out, okay? And we print them like every time you see that there is 3 different objects, but we still see the same value we have inside our static variable. Now when we take the object 2, okay, when we take object 2, which is defined here, and we change that that variable here we have here, and we change it, we assign it, because the first value was this string. Then we give it the second string, which is this one. Then we print all the object. Then all the object is going to have the same text, which is this one. So we have only changed object 2, but now we print object 1 and object 3, but it have the same text. Okay, that is to say that whenever you change object, uh, static variable of one object is going to affect the other object you have created. So here you can see that I have created 3 objects of this class. Then I printed the string. At that time, the string was equal, you know, and this is why we have managed to print out 3 equal string here. Now, when I change the object to only without changing the other object, you can clearly see that I have now those 3 string also changed in the other object. So that is static method, static variable. Um, so and that's what we had today. Tomorrow we continue more about variables, and what we will see, if you can have managed to see, or if you can manage to run it on yourself. We will cover instance variable. Today we have covered the static or class variable, and tomorrow we will cover also the instance variable. I hope you have learned a lot in how we can create variables, and see you tomorrow. Thank you.